This will sound very strange, but the apocalyptic fire and emergency evacuation on the island of Maui in Hawaii that the governor said appeared as if a bomb went off. And on the same day, the prophetic fourth no-hitter of the season in Major League Baseball against the Washington Nationals team are prophetic signs from God that are predicting that there will be an emergency evacuation after a dirty bomb will explode in Manhattan in New York City on September 25th, 2023, and are predicting that Barack Obama will become the 48th president in Washington, D.C. on November 21st, 2023, and are predicting that Kamala Harris will die in a fiery plane crash on October 17, 2023, and are predicting that President Trump will die from a heart attack on November 7, 2023, and are predicting that Marjorie Taylor Greene will butt heads, will have a face-off with Obama on December 10, 2023, and are revealing that the resurrection rapture event, the evacuation of God's faithful from the Antichrist, will be on May 26, 2024. The date that this video was posted proves that these predictions are being made ahead of time, as do these time-stamped emails and forensic notes PDF documents. If you are skeptical for some reason, please email me and I will forward these to you. In God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections, he uses the number 36 as symbolism for 666, 666, which is the symbolic number of the Antichrist described in Bible prophecy. The reason is 36 hints at 3 sixes, and 36 is 6 times 6. And 36 is 2 times 18, and 18 is 6 plus 6 plus 6. And the 36th triangular number, which in a triangle of numbers, the last number in the 36th row is 666. And 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 all the way up to 36 equals 666. The news of 36 confirmed deaths in the Lahaina, Maui fire occurred on August 9th, 2023, exactly 15 years and 3 months after Obama's infamous 57 instead of 50 states gaffe. Obama's 50 states gaffe was exactly 50 years after the End of the World TV episode in which the plot involved a man named Trump in an Old West town selling the townsfolk a wall of security. Trump's presidency and election campaign were synonymous with him selling his border wall of security. Hawaii is the 50th state. Barack Obama is from the 50th state, which makes his 50 states gaffe all the more remarkable. The 44th president also grew up in Indonesia for 4 years, and Indonesia is one of 57 states in the Islamic Organization of Cooperation, which makes this 57 states instead of 50 states gaffe even more remarkable. His 50 states gaffe was exactly 50 years after the episode titled End of the World aired, and his gaffe is 144,000 hours, which is the equivalent of exactly 6,000 days before the end, the second coming of Lord Jesus Christ on the Day of Atonement on October 12, 2024. The number 144,000 is a prominent prophetic number in the book of Revelation, the prophetic book about the end times. This story of the Maui fire is the worst natural disaster in the 50th state's history, and it is about an apocalyptic, as in the end times, fire that had people running for their lives and jumping into the sea. 15 years and 3 months hints at the 153 fish that were caught in the net in Jesus' last miracle, which was symbolic of the end of the age of fishing for men, when Peter jumped from the boat and into the Sea of Galilee. People in the fire in historic Lahaina, Maui, had to be rescued in a boat from the sea. The number 50 is symbolic of the church, as the Feast of Pentecost is symbolic of the church, and Pentecost literally means 50th day. This fire in the 50th state that hints at the 153 fish that symbolizes the end of the age of fishing for men is a warning of judgment for the church. And it was Peter that jumped into the sea, and it was Peter that said that judgment begins with the church, and that this coming judgment would be symbolized by fire instead of water. This warning from God for the church is a warning of the Antichrist, who is from Hawaii, the 50th state, and who was president from 2009 until 2017. This is why this apocalyptic fire and evacuation and rescue in the 50th state occurred 9 months and 17 days before the rescue and rapture of God's faithful on May 26, 2024, which is Pentecost in the calendar that watches for new moons, and Pentecost means 50th day. Hawaii is known for its rainbows. The rainbow is described in Genesis 9:17, another reason for the 9 months and 17 days connection. Obama, who is from Hawaii, is the rainbow president, who famously lit up the White House in rainbow colors on the day that the Supreme Court ruled in favor of gay marriage. Also, 9 times 17 equals 153. Therefore, 9 months and 17 days from August 9th, 2023 confirms the 15 years and 3 months, which hints at 153, to August 9th, 2023, from Obama's prophetic gaffe on May 9th, 2008. The number 50 is symbolic of the church and God's people. From Obama's 50 states gaffe, it is 15 years and 3 months, which hints at the number 153, which is 9 times 17, to the apocalyptic fire in the 50th state. And from the apocalyptic fire and evacuation and rescue in the 50th state, it is 9 months and 17 days to Pentecost, the 50th day, the day of the resurrection, rapture, rescue. August 9th, 2023 was also the day that the state government of Hawaii issued a state of emergency for the entirety of the state. The governor of Hawaii said it appeared like a quote-unquote bomb went off. Dr. Riza Dinesh, who runs an urgent care center and mobile clinic in Lahaina, said it was like a quote-unquote war zone. Hawaii is known for its rainbows. The rainbow is God's sign regarding judgment in the book of Genesis in the account of Noah's flood. God gave Noah a 7 days warning to load the ark for their rescue, and this was followed by 40 days of increasing floodwaters. This was a total of 47 days. In the Maui fire, people jumped into the sea and had to be rescued by a boat, which is a parallel with the ark. Noah and his family were rescued in a boat and were evacuated. The story of this fire is about the evacuation of Lahaina, as well as the evacuation of 14,000 tourists from Maui. The governor described the scene as being as if a bomb went off. August 9th, 2023 is 47 days before it is predicted a bomb will go off in Manhattan in New York City. A dirty bomb that will trigger a mass evacuation. The governor's name is Josh Green. Josh hints at Joshua in the Bible and the walls of security that collapsed in God's judgment on Jericho. Currently, the death toll is 55. It is predicted that Kamala Harris will die in a fiery plane crash near the I-55 highway. 1,656 hours, which hints at the number of years between Adam and Noah's flood, 1,656 years. And 1,656 hours is the equivalent of 69 days, which hints at the most central prophecy in the Bible in Daniel chapter 9, the 70 weeks prophecy that is divided into a period of 69 weeks, followed by the final 70th week, which is symbolic of the end times period and the Antichrist. And so, in other words, 69 days hints at this final period of the Antichrist, who is from Hawaii. And Kamala Harris's plane crash will lead to the rise of the Antichrist, Barack Obama, through her replacement, and her predicted fiery crash near the I-55 highway is predicted to be 1,656 hours after the state of emergency and 36 deaths on August 9, 2023. The Lahaina Maui fire is the second deadliest wildfire in modern U.S. history after the apocalyptic Camp Fire, otherwise known as the Paradise, California fire, the story of which was also about the horrific emergency evacuation on November 8, 2018, which was exactly 48 months before the Lahaina fire on August 8, 2023. Obama is from Hawaii, and he is predicted to be the 48th president. President Trump, God's trumpet that he uses to trumpet and highlight his prophetic signs, visited Paradise, California on the 666th day after Obama left office. 14 people, including 2 children, were rescued from the sea that had jumped in to escape the flames. After 9/11, 14 cows were donated from a Maasai tribe in the Kenyan savannah near where Obama was born. In the Bible, the Egyptian king is symbolic of the Antichrist, and Joseph interpreted the Egyptian king's dream about 14 cows. These 14 cows in the dream symbolize the end times period of the Antichrist. The 36, which hints at 666, the number of the Antichrist, death toll, and state of emergency on August 9th, 2023 is 104 days, which hints at the number 14, before it is predicted that Obama will become the 48th president. He will serve a second presidency, and this is why the Maui wildfire was the second deadliest wildfire in modern U.S. history, and why it was 2 children in the 14 people who were rescued from the sea. It was also 14,000 tourists that evacuated Maui, which is more confirmation of the 104 days from this fire in Hawaii, where Obama is from, to the date it is predicted that Obama will become the president for a second presidency. And 104 days, which hints at the number 14, hints at how Barack Obama is from and was born in the Kenyan savannah, from which a Maasai tribe from the Kenyan savannah donated 14 cows to America after 9/11. Also on August 9th, 2023, the 14th no-hitter in the history of the Philadelphia Phillies baseball team was thrown. It was the first no-hitter suffered by the Washington Nationals since the team relocated to Washington, D.C. in 2005. God uses pitchers on the pitching mound as symbolism for the Antichrist on the Temple Mount described in Bible prophecy. This 14th no-hitter against the Washington Nationals is confirmation that 104 days after August 9th, 2023, the Antichrist will become the president in Washington, D.C. It was the fourth no-hitter of the season in Major League Baseball, and a main aspect of the news story was how it was only the second game the pitcher pitched for Philadelphia after arriving in Philadelphia to play for his fourth Major League Baseball team in his career. God uses pitchers on the pitching mound as symbolism for the Antichrist on the Temple Mount described in Bible prophecy. The fourth no-hitter of the season and the fourth team played for in the pitcher's career is confirmation that the 44th president is the Antichrist. The Antichrist will persecute the church, and because the Church of Philadelphia is one of the 7 churches that Jesus wrote to in the book of Revelation, the 14th no-hitter thrown by the Philadelphia Phillies is a symbolic warning of judgment for the church. In the 7 letters to the 7 churches, it is only the Church of Philadelphia that Jesus said would be rescued and raptured from the persecution from the Antichrist. And as was explained, the date of this win for Philadelphia is a prophetic 9 months and 17 days before the date of the resurrection rapture on Pentecost, the 50th day. This win for Philadelphia, a city that is named after one of the 7 churches in the book of Revelation, was their 7th win in their last 10 games. And Philadelphia won the game 7-0. The 14th no-hitter hints at the 14 cows that are symbolic of the end times period of the Antichrist. The 14 cows in the Egyptian king's dream that Joseph interpreted were divided into 7 cows of prosperity and 7 cows of famine. The Egyptian king gave authority to Joseph to rule over the food supply, and the Antichrist will rule over the food supply in the symbolic 7 years of the end times. After the win, the pitcher who pitched the 14th no-hitter for Philadelphia had a record of 7 wins and 7 losses on the season. This 14th no-hitter and 7 wins and 7 losses hints at the 14 cows that were divided into 2 sets of 7 cows, 7 cows of prosperity followed by 7 cows of famine. God uses pitchers on the pitching mound as symbolism for the Antichrist on the Temple Mount described in Bible prophecy. This 14th no-hitter in Philadelphia's history and this pitcher on the pitching mound's record of 7 wins and 7 losses hints at 7 plus 7 equals 14, and this is confirmation of the 104 days connection, which hints at the number 14 from this no-hitter to the date it is predicted that the Antichrist will become the president. God uses pitchers on the pitching mound to symbolize the Antichrist on the Temple Mount, who will persecute the church through rationing food that will only be permitted to those who have taken the mark of the Antichrist. The mark of the Antichrist is symbolized by the number 22. The inverse of the mark of the Antichrist is described in the book of Ezekiel in chapter 9, and it would have been the Tav mark, the Tav letter in the Hebrew alphabet. And the Tav is the last letter and 22nd letter in the Hebrew alphabet. The mark of the Antichrist is described in the last book of the Bible, the book of Revelation, which is the 22nd book out of 22 books in the Bible that have a total of 22 chapters. The Philadelphia pitcher's jersey number is 22. The prophetic final out of the game that sealed the no-hitter for pitcher number 22 was against Washington Nationals batter number 22. The out was a pop-up fly ball to the rookie center fielder, who is 22 years old. This center fielder's jersey number is 18. 18 hints at 6 plus 6 plus 6, the number of the Antichrist in Bible prophecy. It also hints at the 18th Amendment and the prohibition of purchasing alcohol in the 1920s, which is symbolic of the coming prohibition from buying food for those who refuse the mark of the Antichrist. Pitcher number 22 made 5 strikeouts in the game, leaving 22 outs for his defense, 9 of which were made by the 22-year-old center fielder, which hints at the inverse of the mark of the Antichrist, the Tav mark, the 22nd letter in the Hebrew alphabet that is described in Ezekiel chapter 9. This 22-year-old center fielder who caught the prophetic final out fly ball hit by player number 22 that was pitched by player number 22 made history in this game by being the first outfielder since 1900 to make 9 outs in a game. The number 9 is symbolic of God's judgment, and these 9 outs by the Philadelphia outfielder made this a warning of judgment for the church. In the letters to the 7 churches, Jesus said that he hates the doctrine of the Nicolaitans, and that he is coming to make war with the sword of his mouth on those who teach this doctrine and have the works that are a product of this doctrine. In this no-hitter on August 9th, 2023, the star player for Philadelphia, Nick Castellanos, hit his 199th and 200th home run. The name Nick hints at the Nicolaitan doctrine. The 199th home run hints at judgment, and the 200th home run hints at the second coming of the Judge, Lord Jesus Christ. It was also Nick's second home run of the night. His 200th home run was his second home run of the night, which hints at 22. And this followed his 199th home run, which hints at the number 9. And therefore this hinted at the inverse of the mark of the Antichrist that is described in Ezekiel chapter 9, which would have been a Tav mark, the 22nd letter in the Hebrew alphabet. And therefore this is a sign from God that communicates that the mark of the Antichrist is judgment from God for the church, a testing of faith for the church because of its Nicolaitan doctrine and the works that are a product of its doctrine that Jesus said he hates and is coming to make war on with the sword of his mouth on those that teach and have the works that are a product of this doctrine, which is the doctrine of the vast majority of the church today, including and especially the American Evangelical Church, which is the Church of Laodicea, which is why the vast majority of quote-unquote Christians have already taken the mark of the Antichrist, which is the thing, and you know what I'm talking about, the thing that you can't talk about. It is the thing, and the purpose of this prediction being made in this video that is from God is to prove this. Make no mistake. The reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction is to prove this. End of controversy. There is no more debate. The thing is the mark of the Antichrist, the snake bite. I want to keep this video short, and so make sure, especially if you are Christian, that you watch the 23 church signs video on this channel, and also the Muhammad Ali, Jim Brown deaths video. Nick is number 8, and the 200th home run was hit off of Washington pitcher number 1. The pitch from player number 1 for Washington that was hit by player number 8 hinted at 18, 6 plus 6 plus 6, the Antichrist in Washington, and the 18th Amendment. The pitch to Nick for Philadelphia by the pitcher from Washington was a four-seam fastball, and the score was 0-4. This identified the Antichrist who will persecute the church for its Nicolaitan doctrine as the 44th president in Washington. The home run changed the score from 0-4 to 0-5. This hinted at the 54th Massachusetts Regiment in the Civil War, who were not paid the equivalent $13 per month that the white Union soldiers were paid. This hints at the coming oppressive minority law of restricting the purchase of food from those who refuse to take the mark of the Antichrist through programmable digital currency and controlling their bank accounts. The pitcher went to a record of 7-7, and the team won 0-7. This was on August 9th, 2023, exactly 7 times 7 years after President Richard Nixon resigned due to the Watergate scandal. This was right after the smoking gun of his recorded conversations. The smoking gun in the Watergate scandal and Nixon's resignation was exactly 7 times 7 years before the smoking fire in Hawaii and the pitcher's record of 7-7. Gerald Ford became the first unelected president on August 9th, 1974, exactly 7 times 7 years before the fire in Hawaii. Likewise, Obama, who is from Hawaii, will be unelected and will overcome the 22nd Amendment, which is another reason why the pitcher was number 22 and the final prophetic out was against batter number 22, and the out was made by the rookie 22-year-old, and Nick, as in Nicolaitan doctrine, Castellanos, hit 2 home runs and his 200th home run. The Antichrist is the 44th president. In the 44th presidential election, in 1960, Richard Nixon won 222 electoral votes. It was the first presidential election for the state of Hawaii. God uses firsts for prophetic signs, and Hawaii was also the first state to legalize abortion. In the 44th presidential election, the first presidential election for Hawaii, Hawaii voted more Republican than the national average. The only other time this happened was in 1972, and it was also for Republican Richard Nixon. The Hawaii election in 1960 was controversial, and the margin was supposedly only 115 votes. The delay in recounting the vote was cited as a precedent by supporters of Gore in 2000 and Trumpet, God's Trumpet, in 2020. The 44th presidential election in 1960 was the closest presidential election in the 20th century. In the popular vote, Kennedy supposedly only received 119,000 more votes than Nixon. The number 119 hints at 9/11 and the warning of God's judgment and destruction on 9/11 in 2001. On 9/11 in 2001, 110 stories of the Twin Towers collapsed and engendered an earthquake that cracked the foundation of Federal Hall, where George Washington was inaugurated at the founding of the nation. Federal Hall is located on Wall Street, which was named after a 9-foot-high wall of security that the Dutch built to keep the British and the Indians out. In the Bible, Joshua died at the age of 110 after he led the Hebrews around the walls of security of the ancient city of Jericho before they collapsed in God's judgment, and God's judgment is symbolized by the number 9. The number 1109 hints at a pairing of 110 and 9. This is why John F. Kennedy was shot in the head and killed exactly 1109 days after the election in which Kennedy supposedly received 119,000 more votes than Nixon. It is widely believed that in the 44th presidential election in 1960, the states of Illinois and Texas were shoplifted for Kennedy, and therefore the election was shoplifted. You know what I mean by shoplifted. The 44th president will become the president again through the shoplifted election, just like the 44th presidential election with Kennedy and Nixon, and Obama will be appointed instead of elected, just like Nixon's successor, Gerald Ford, after the smoking gun of the Watergate scandal. In the Bible, judgment on a people symbolically begins at the gate. Obama is from Hawaii, and this is why the controversial election in the state of Hawaii, Hawaii's first presidential election, was the 44th presidential election. The shoplifted 44th presidential election involved Nixon, and this is why the smoking fire in Hawaii, with desperate people jumping into the water, on the same day that the pitcher on the pitching mound, which is symbolism for the Antichrist on the Temple Mount, who went to a record of 7-7, was exactly 7 times 7 years after the climactic end of the Watergate scandal with the smoking gun recorded tapes and Nixon's resignation and Ford's unelected ascendancy to the White House. The name of the governor of Hawaii is Josh Green. Josh alludes to Joshua in the Bible, who led the Hebrews around the walls of security of Jericho before they collapsed in God's judgment. Obama is from Hawaii. The name Green alludes to Marjorie Taylor Greene. The number 42 is symbolic of the 42 months period of the Antichrist in Bible prophecy. The number 123 is the 42nd semi-prime number, which means that it is a number that can only be divided by 2 other prime numbers. The 36, which hints at 666, the number of the Antichrist, reported deaths on August 9th, 2023, in the Hawaii fire, on the same day that the baseball team from Washington, D.C. was no hit, is 123 days before it is predicted that Marjorie Taylor Greene will shoot Obama in the head in Washington, D.C. This is also the reason for this connection back to Hawaii's first presidential election in the 44th presidential election between Nixon and Kennedy, who was shot in the head 1,109 days after the 44th presidential election, in which Kennedy supposedly received 119,000 more votes than Nixon. Also, Kennedy was shot in the head in Dallas, Texas, and Dallas in God's signs is symbolism for the capital of evangelicalism and the American Evangelical Church, which God is demonstrating judgment warning signs through men named Nick, which is why the prophetic home runs by Nick Castellanos for Philadelphia are 123 days before it is predicted that the Antichrist, Barack Obama, will be shot in the head, after which he will miraculously recover. Marjorie Taylor Greene is the representative of the 14th district of the 4th state, which hints at the number 144, a prophetic number in the book of Revelation. This fire on Maui, in which people jumped into the water, connected to Watergate and Nixon, and the 44th presidential election that was shoplifted from Nixon. Hawaii became a state in 1959. The prophetic fire in Hawaii is exactly 144 weeks after the 59th presidential election was shoplifted from trumpet, God's trumpet. The number 59 is the 17th prime number. God pairs 9 and 17 together to confirm the signs and connections and to point to the president who was president from 2009 until 2017. The 59th presidential election for the White House in Washington, D.C. that was shoplifted from trumpet, God's trumpet, connected to the Hawaii fire, and this was on the same day that the baseball team from Washington, D.C. was no-hit, when the outfielder made history by making 9 outs in the game. These 9 outs pairs with the 59th presidential election, as the number 59 is the 17th prime number. In turn, the 9 outs in the no-hitter on the 9th of the month and the day of the apocalyptic Maui fire is exactly 90 days before it is predicted that Trumpet will die from a heart attack. 90 days is the equivalent of 2,160 hours, and 216 is 6 times 6 times 6, which hints at the number of the Antichrist. Which is why the day of 36 deaths, which hints at 666, in the prophetic fire is 2,160 hours before the predicted death of Trumpet. As was explained, the prophetic fire and evacuation in the 50th state is Noah's flood symbolism, as is 47 days Noah's flood symbolism. The fire and evacuation that the governor said was like a bomb went off connects with 47 days to the date it is predicted that a dirty bomb will go off in Manhattan that will trigger a mass evacuation. A dirty bomb is made of nuclear bomb material, and uranium is used in nuclear bombs. Uranium is named after the planet Uranus. Uranus has an orbital period of 84 years, and the Antichrist, who is from the 50th state, was born on the date 84. Exactly 84 days before the 36 deaths, which hints at 666, were reported in the Hawaii fire and evacuation into the ocean, was the day of the release of the new 3D images of the Titanic at the bottom of the ocean on May 17, 2023. The new images of the Titanic that allow us to see and understand better what the sunken Titanic looks like is symbolic of God's hand behind America's history becoming more visible and understood through his prophetic signs. The quote-unquote unsinkable Titanic sunk on its maiden voyage, which was a sign from God regarding man's hubris. The prophetic fire and evacuation into the ocean in the 50th state connects to the new images of the Titanic and its watery grave at the bottom of the ocean, and the release of the new Titanic images were in turn exactly 50 years after the Watergate hearings began in Congress on May 17, 1973. Aliens and UFOs are demons masquerading as aliens and UFOs. Most people's spiritual experiences are demonic deception, especially if they are not a true follower of Christ. Jesus died for you. It is time to repent, which means to change one's ways and turn to God and become a disciple of Jesus. Please leave a like and upvote the video, and once this prediction has come to pass, share this video with everyone you know, and more, don't stop sharing it everywhere in social media. It is essential that everyone immediately read the homepage of my website, TrumpPrediction.com.